everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, back again with another video. Now this, unlike Wrestlers of the Week, this is a special one-off edition for WrestleMania weekend. It's 10 matches that you must see, or 10 must-see matches at WrestleMania weekend, because as a lot of wrestling fans will know, WrestleMania weekend doesn't just consist of WrestleMania itself. No, it also consists of an NXT TakeOver show. But not just that, it consists of various indie promotions and some bigger ones that maybe can't be classified as indies anymore, like Ring of Honor, all coming together in the city of New Orleans this year to celebrate wrestling and to put on some bloody lovely matches as well. So, for the benefit of those who maybe aren't too familiar with the indie scene or don't really know much about the build-up of this year's WrestleMania, if you are more of an indie fan, I'm just going to take a look at some of the best matches that I think are going to really wow everybody at WrestleMania weekend, from WWE to TakeOver to like Evolve. Joey Janela's Spring Break as well is going to be on there, which I'll explain in due course, and a few others as well. So I'm really looking forward to this, and hopefully you are as well. I'll also include which day of the week each event takes place on, and also I'll be saying like how you can access it online. I couldn't really find my words there because I'm too excited to give you the 10 must-see matches of WrestleMania 34 weekend. A few honourable mentions for some promotions that I maybe have missed out. I'm gonna give a shout out to Kaiju Big Battle, which is a stupid thing. I watched a bit of it last year in Orlando. Basically, Kaiju Big Battle is where guys dress up as, like, you remember those big Power Ranger villains in the big suits, like big monsters, and they just fight each other in a cage with like buildings around to make them look Godzilla-sized. If that's the sort of thing that floats your boat. Personally, not for me, but maybe that's what you want to see. Weirdos. Also, a shout out to Progress, who always put on some fantastic shows. My favourite UK indie promotion, of course. And unfortunately, I didn't put any of their matches on this list, but I'm going to fully endorse them anyway, because even though their cards often look stronger or weaker on paper, even the weaker ones often deliver a very good show indeed. So Progress are on there, Kaiju Big Battle are on there. Check out the WWN Super Show as well. Some very distinguished Japanese wrestlers on there, as well as some primary indie guys on the scene today, like Keith Lee. And also, I want to mention a special, like, significant match that I didn't quite squeeze onto the list, but one that I still want to give a shout out to nonetheless. David Starr versus Mike Quackenbush. What a technical bout of wizardry that should be. On to the list proper. Number 10, that big NXT TakeOver New Orleans ladder match for the newly created North American Championship. I'll just run through the competitors very quickly. We've got EC3, who of course came out and basically said to William Regal, "Thank you for creating me a new title," and Regal went no and booked the match and said, "You're gonna have to go through 5 other guys." Who are those 5 guys? Killian Dane, Lars Sullivan, 2 big lads, 2 big hairy lads. One of them is hairy, one of them is not. Ricochet, one of the best high flyers in the world and maybe even in the history of wrestling. So poised, so graceful. Also Adam Cole, Bebe, who's doing double duty on the night. He's in the ladder match, and he's also going to team up with his stablemate Kyle O'Reilly to defend the NXT Tag Team Championships. And the Velveteen Dream, who is just, I love him so much. I love him so much. It's disgusting how much I love him. He's one of the most charismatic, promising youngsters in the wrestling world today. Now, I think this match could really steal the show because it just has so many factors in its favour, and stealing the show at NXT TakeOver is no mean feat at all, because I think personally that TakeOver New Orleans could have the strongest card of any show of WrestleMania weekend, not just under the WWE banner, but of any indie show, of any WWE show, of any show. I think TakeOver New Orleans is probably the strongest. But as I say, this match has so many factors in its favour. It's for a new championship, so there's an immediate sense of excitement. It features some of the most exciting NXT newcomers like Ricochet and EC3, guys who maybe slightly indie-leaning WWE fans may be a little bit aware of, if not fully aware of, if they're a major indie fan. And it'll just be very exciting to see them compete in a WWE ring, in a WWE pay-per-view sort of, especially Ricochet in a ladder environment. He could do some really crazy stuff. And finally, because there's 6 guys all competing for a belt, it's quite unpredictable. We don't know who's going to win. EC3, I think, is probably the favourite in many people's eyes, but the fact that he came out and laid claim to the belt maybe is a bit of misdirection by WWE. Maybe they want one of the other NXT superstars to swoop in and snag it for themselves. TakeOver, of course, takes place on Saturday night and can be reached via the WWE Network. Number 9, it's time to talk about Joey Janela's Spring Break, one of the oddest things ever in the world, not just the world of wrestling, but in the world. Last year, Joey Janela's Spring Break saw some ridiculous matches, including like Marty Jannetty. I think Glacier showed up. It's a big, not to be taken seriously mishmash of, it's basically everyone getting really drunk at midnight and watching some wrestling, and I'm all for that, to be honest. The match that I'm including from this year's Joey Janela's Spring Break is one of the oddest matchups I think I've ever heard of in wrestling. Matt Riddle, the former UFC superstar, mega knockout artist, dangerous man, against James Ellsworth, the man who's beaten AJ Styles. Any man with two hands has a fighting chance. I don't know if he has much of a chance against Matt Riddle, but then again, it's happening at Joey Janela's Spring Break, the most bizarro show of WrestleMania weekend, not including stupid Kaiju Big Battle. But I really think that Riddle versus Ellsworth could pull out some surprises, and if you don't think that Ellsworth has a chance, you don't know pro wrestling. There's going to be at least one disgustingly near fall roll-up kind of situation, isn't there, where everyone thinks, oh my god, Ellsworth's going to win. I don't know if he is going to win. I think Riddle's too hot at the moment, and I think that if he were to lose to Ellsworth, a lot of the promotions that he works for might not be too happy about that. But at the same time, imagine if Ellsworth won. I think I'd cry. I think I'd burst into tears. That match takes place at 5 minutes to midnight tomorrow night on Friday night, so check that out if you want. I think that show is part of the WWN family, so you can probably access it on WWN Live. Number 8, the SmackDown Women's Championship match between Charlotte Flair and Asuka at WrestleMania 34. This could be the best women's match in WrestleMania history, and maybe is expected to be. I think only one or two other matches this weekend have as much pressure on it as Charlotte Flair versus Asuka. Not just because Asuka's undefeated streak's at stake, but also because both women have an expectation to put on a classic, and if it's even slightly below par, then a lot of people might really go in on it and say that it really wasn't that good. I still think it's going to be very good. I just think it's got a very high bar to live up to. But if anyone can match the hype, it is Charlotte Flair and Asuka. Asuka, for my money, is the best women's wrestler in WWE, and Charlotte is not far behind at all. Asuka is obviously a different type of wrestler. She's more experienced, more hard-hitting. She does all these technical crazy reversals and huge strikes. Charlotte is every inch a WWE superstar, someone who has been built up by WWE in their mold, and that's fine, but I think it'll be a very interesting clash of styles, and I think that it could steal the show at WrestleMania. In terms of quality, there are a lot of bigger matches involving bigger names, but I think in terms of just quality, this match could really prove a lot of naysayers wrong, and I hope it does, purely because I think that Charlotte and Asuka are both brilliant indeed. The only issue that it might have is predictability, because Asuka is surely going to win. They're not going to throw away her undefeated record before she wins a title, are they? Are they? Carmella's also waiting in the wings with the Money in the Bank contract. This is a very interesting match indeed, and I think it's one of the ones that I'm most looking forward to at WrestleMania 34. WrestleMania takes place on Sunday, you know that, WWE Network. Don't be stupid, it's on the WWE Network. We all know this, we're wrestling fans. Number 7, Marty Scurll versus Dalton Castle at Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor on Saturday night, which you can access via the Ring of Honor website, of course. Now, Supercard of Honor is clashing with NXT TakeOver New Orleans, so it's got a lot to live up to. But if there's one match that I think could really be a celebration of the pageantry and character work of wrestling, it's the Ring of Honor World Championship match between the champion Dalton Castle and the challenger Bullet Club's Marty Scurll. Whoop whoop, whoop whoop whoop. Wasn't prepared to do that. Wasn't prepared to fully commit to that joke, was I? I feel quite bad for Dalton Castle. I think he's underappreciated in the wrestling world at large. He's great in the ring, really charismatic, really funny. He's got his boys with him, those kind of skimpily dressed men with feathers. If you don't know what, I've made it sound worse than it actually is. It's actually really good. But Dalton, I think, doesn't get as much credit as he deserves, not only because the Bullet Club storyline's kind of overshadowing Ring of Honor at the moment, but also because of the manner in which he won the title. Nobody saw it coming. He just defeated Cody out of nowhere and suddenly was the champion. I don't think his reign has been paid as much attention as it deserves, and hopefully with this match against Marty, the spotlight will once again be firmly placed onto the Ring of Honor World Championship, and I think that's good for Dalton. And if anyone can bring out his full flamboyance and kind of connection with the crowd, I guess, in a strange peacocky sort of way, then it's Marty Scurll. He's the yang to his yin, or the yin to his yang. Whichever one the bad one is, that's Marty. The good one's Dalton. Lovely Dalton. Number 6, we're going back to Joey Janela's Spring Break on the Friday night, because there's a match that could break every single law that the Louisiana State Commission has set out in terms of what you're allowed to do at WrestleMania weekend and what you're not allowed to do. Because it features two men who just don't care. They don't give a damn. Penta El Zero M, otherwise known as Pentagon, if you're a fan of Lucha Underground, and Nick Gage, one of the scariest men in wrestling ever. A legitimate former criminal and a terrifying prospect. And if anyone can match him, blow for blow and terrifying spot for terrifying spot, then it's Penta. Pile drivers have been banned, power bombs have been banned, pushing someone out of the ring has been banned. We're going to see all of that, I guess, Penta versus Nick Gage, unless they somehow work around it. But Pentagon especially, or Penta L0M, excuse me, is infamous for dropping people on their head on the ring apron. And if he doesn't do that, well then I guess you should just ask for your money back. No, I'm joking, but it will be a good match and a grisly one. And I think in terms of terrifying, bloody, maybe even death matches if they get weapons involved, there's no better place to see that than Penta versus Nick Gage at Joey Janela's Spring Break. Wonderful. Number 5, Darby Allin versus Walter at Evolve 103. Darby Allin, I love him. I don't know too much about him, but he's one of my favourite new wrestlers that I'm just discovering, you know, just learning about. But Evolve fans will be very familiar with him. He's a deranged, psychotic, yet somehow lovable kind of young wrestler who just has no regard for his own safety. He's one of those ones, but he looks really striking. He wears some like emo gothic gear. He's really cool. He's really cool in a deranged sort of lunatic way. And he's got a pair of very interesting opponents at WrestleMania weekend. On the first night of the Evolve doubleheader, he's facing Keith Lee, a very large man who hits very hard. And on the second night of the Evolve doubleheader, he's facing Walter, a very large man who hits very hard and makes chests bleed and is terrified. Darby Allin's gonna die. If you want to see the potential end of Darby Allin, although imagine if he won. Can you imagine the pop if he won? Oh my God, maybe he's gonna win. Maybe he's gonna win one of them. Is he just gonna lose both matches? He could beat Walter. He can do it. I'm behind him. If you want to see Darby Allin triumphantly defeat Walter, then check out Evolve on Friday night, which is available via WWN Live. Come on, Darby. I'm behind him. He can do it. He can do it. Number 4, tonight at Evolve 102, the Evolve Championship match between the champion, Zack Sabre Jr., and the challenger, Matt Riddle. This is the single match of WrestleMania weekend which features the two men with the most momentum behind them. Zack Sabre Jr. has just come off the push of his life in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Even though he lost at Sakura Genesis to Okada, he's still banging form, maybe the hottest wrestler in the world right now in terms of having great matches on a consistent basis. But then maybe that wrestler is Matt Riddle, another man who's just been knocking it out of the park on a startlingly consistent basis. Matt Riddle is pretty much beloved everywhere he goes in wrestling, whether it's at Evolve or whether it's the UK independent scene or Germany or wherever he turns up. Everyone loves Matt Riddle and wants to see his matches. And this match for me could be the match of WrestleMania weekend in terms of not just importance because it's for the Evolve Championship, but in terms of match quality, sheer match quality. The pair are no strangers to each other. They've had excellent matches in places like PWG before, and I think if you're a fan of technical wrestling mixed with big, massive strikes and kicks to the chest and that sort of thing, then check out Evolve 102, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Matt Riddle. For the sake of my Wrestlers of the Week league table, I hope it's not that good, and I hope that Zack gives some other people a chance. Selfish man, Zack. Selfish bastard. Number 3, Kenny Omega versus Cody Rhodes at Supercard of Honor on Saturday night at Ring of Honor. This is the culmination of a story that has been dominating the internet for months and months and months now. The Bullet Club civil war between Kenny Omega and his loyalists and Cody Rhodes and his loyalists. And it's gonna be maybe the best match of Cody's career ever. I don't want to presume too much in saying that. He had an excellent match against Okada last year, but this year I think he can do it. I think he can top that with this match against Kenny. Kenny Omega hasn't yet topped this year that match he had with Jericho at Wrestle Kingdom, but this is his chance to do it. And if any doubters out there think, you know what, it's against Cody, he's not that good. Cody is brilliant. He's the biggest heel in wrestling right now. Everyone hates him, legitimately in a good way. Not in a, oh, he's such a cool heel, I want to be like him, I want to cheer him way. In a we want to see you lose way. And when you boil wrestling down to its very root, that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about wanting a good guy to beat a bad guy. And I think that Cody's played his role to perfection. I don't expect him to win. I think Kenny will win. And I think there's going to be serious storyline ramifications because of the match, which could well be resolved at that All-In show in September. So for a match that could have various different consequences, tune into that one. That's Kenny Omega versus Cody. And I've realised that I've just said that I feel sorry for Dalton Castle because the spotlight's not on him, the champion, and then I've put another match on the card ahead of it in the list. Number 2, Gargano versus Ciampa at NXT TakeOver New Orleans. What else needs to be said about this match? It's an unsanctioned match, anything can happen. It could be brutal, there could be weapons, there could be punches in the face. Oh man, in terms of blood feuds, nothing tops this at WrestleMania weekend, apart from maybe Matt Riddle versus James Ellsworth. I'm joking. This match has been built up to for so long. You could trace it all the way back to the singles encounter that they had at the Cruiserweight Classic, where everyone thought, ooh, Gargano's tag partner looks like a bit of a nasty man, and then Gargano beat him and everyone thought Ciampa's going to batter him, and then he didn't and they hugged it out. Then of course they won the NXT Tag Team Championships together. Then of course Ciampa turned on Gargano, and since then has been embarking on a reign of terror against his former best friend, often taking to Twitter and saying some personal things about Gargano's family and his wife and his every aspect of his personal being. Ciampa, you know what, maybe it's not Cody, maybe Ciampa's the best heel in wrestling right now, even though he hasn't wrestled much because of that injury that he's been recovering from. But if Ciampa's back on form, as he probably will be, he's had a long time to recover, this could steal the show. This could be the best match of WrestleMania weekend, and I'm inclined to think that it will be. I think this could be the best match of WrestleMania weekend. Ooh, it's a big call. There's one other one that I think could also challenge it for the match of the weekend, and I'm going to talk about it right now. Number one is AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. As it should be, the WWE Championship match is the most anticipated match of WrestleMania weekend for many people. For most people, for many people like us, smarky, horrible people, because AJ Styles is maybe the best wrestler in the world. Nakamura was maybe the best wrestler of the world. Hasn't had as much of a chance to show it yet on the main roster, but if there's any match that's going to get Nakamura back on track, win or lose, it's this one. He and Styles, of course, infamously now had a hell of a match at Wrestle Kingdom a few years back before they both joined WWE and beat the hell out of each other. Nakamura won, and then they gave each other a little fist bump of respect afterwards. They didn't do that. They didn't go, hey, they just went, in like a cool way. But the story here isn't just WWE centric. It's not about whether Shinsuke can, win the championship for the first time or whether Styles can defend against his toughest opponent yet. It's about more than that. It's about whether Nakamura can assert his overall dominance over Styles, having beaten him a few years ago, or whether Styles can even the odds. It's so good, and I really hope it's not the last match we've seen between these two either. I feel like this deserves to headline WrestleMania. I don't think it will do. I think that'll go to either Lesnar versus Reigns, or maybe Undertaker versus Cena, if that match even happens, which it obviously is, or maybe even Ronda and Kurt Angle versus Triple H and Stephanie. But the match that I'm most looking forward to of that WrestleMania card is, by a huge margin, AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, and I think that or Ciampa Gargano is going to be the best match of the entire WrestleMania weekend. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and thank you very much for watching this video. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com, and these have been my 10 must-see matches of WrestleMania 34 weekend. Thank you again. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack the Jobber. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic, and check out our Patreon as well, patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget, of course, to join us.